It is indubitably that time. What's up, dog? And if you're already a fan, my name is Trigger Studios, a spy animator turned what if YouTuber after doing it for a couple years. Today you're going to be watching the first saga completion of my first What If series and the pretty popular idea what if Dark Sonic was canon. A series I first started at New Year's Day, cause who didn't grow up watching Sonic X or even watching Sprite animations back in the day? And even coming from me, I spent 3 years making those type of fights myself. Anyways, this will be the first 4 parts specifically. Give the video a like and a sub while you're at it, cause low-key depending how this video goes is depending on whether I continue the series or not. Anyways, that's enough yap from me. Hope you guys enjoy the story. Actually starting our story, the first change I'm making is Sonic will slightly have more affinity for chaos energy in this timeline, aka the reason why he's able to go super so easily all the time. This will be implemented at the end of Sonic 1, where after Sonic beats Robotnik at his original scheme and returns back to Green Hill Zone, the 6 at the time known Chaos Emeralds start to disperse, with the gemstones bringing back the nature to the zone, and almost like a token of thanks for helping recover them from harm, the Chaos Emeralds seem to give our main character a little bit of their energy before they fly away and have to be recovered in another adventure. Not really understanding the feeling of a slight power increase he now has, and to be honest, too free-spirited to care, especially having better things to worry about like the likely chance that the evil Robotnik is still around. Sonic would still follow where the wind takes him, basically everything leading back to being the same in this timeline, just like in the original for a while. The only major difference is that every obstacle he faces this time in both Sonic CD and 2 is able to be handled slightly easier. Arriving at Little Planet, finding the time stones, even the iconic Sonic vs Metal Sonic race in Stardust Speedway is run with better ease, which baffles the devious doctor who built Metal Sonic to literally match everything he saw in the Hedgehog during the previous adventure, but clearly he couldn't factor in the blessing of mystical gems into his equation. Even in Emerald Hill Zone, after meeting and befriending Tails, the new duo would be able to fetch 6 Chaos Emeralds easier at this time throughout the special zone, with Tails not only being more impressed and admiring this version of Sonic because of his slightly better feats, but even brings up the hypothesis that Sonic is some sort of alpha version of a Chaos Emerald radar, with how he's been able to slightly sense the energy of the Chaos Emerald. Sonic, taking the praise, tells his best friend it's nothing that he understands himself, but whatever the Chaos Emeralds did to him made him be able to sense them kind of. Maybe it has to do with that weird feeling when he let the Chaos Emeralds go the first time, almost like a tingling in the back. All of this banter while not knowing that there is one more they need in their collection. Now fast forwarding our story a little bit to the grand showdown in the Death Egg between Sonic and the Death Egg robot, where even with his slight boost of chaos energy here, Sonic would be unable to win this battle. Robotnik has adapted to the events on Little Planet, and Sonic's speed is just not enough to break through the defenses of this new gigantic contraption. This leads to the eventual rise and need of more power. The last 7th Chaos Emerald has embedded it into the control panel of the ship, being used as a battery this whole time. The extended amount of time spent in such terrible conditions has almost tinted, grayed out the color of the emerald strangely. Regardless, it violently escapes, ruining the wiring panel as it too joins its brethren in powering up the newly dubbed Super Sonic, appearing as he does originally, with it basically becoming a no-diff fight as not only the robot but the Death Egg entirely proceeds to get dismantled by our powered up hero. But right here is where I'm adding one last change to this timeline. Robotnik, inside a barely functioning machine and with pure desperation on the mind, is actually able to get one lucky hit on Super Sonic by pure chance, where with the Hedgehog's hard landing finds himself surrounded with the radioactive remains of wiring and capsules of chaos energy that Robotnik has created, almost kinda mirroring the beginning of Sonic Unleashed where Sonic was caught up in the extractor machine. The abundance of chaos energy and electricity from machinery created with such evil purposes makes Sonic yell in extreme agony as a chaotic reaction occurs within his body, as the once positive energy turns negative, with all types of sparks flying all over the place, with our protagonist enduring pain he's never felt before. Perplexed by this situation, but not gonna let his chance to escape go free. The good doctor crawls out of his broken creation and prepares to dip off, prepared for any chance to escape like always. After just stepping one foot into his getaway pod, a terrifying presence that he's never felt before emerges. Looking at the smoky heap, he sees a silhouette of Sonic standing there menacingly. But even with the smoke blocking most of his view, he could swear that the eyes of the hedgehog looked different than before, almost circle-like. Evil cackling emits from the being, making slow steps towards him, but before any more questions can be asked, the death egg finally combusts. Plummeting down to the globe, Robotnik barely entering the capsule as a mysterious floating island in the sky becomes the spaceship's runway, while a familiar yellow to blue streak of light falls towards the opposite direction. Hours, days, either or, I've definitely been in the same spot for too long. Immediately, Sonic wakes up to find Tails by his side back on the heights of Hilltop Zone inside of a crater nevertheless. Tails jumps excitedly knowing his hero's okay, stammering, "I spent the whole day looking for you on the tornado," asking tons of questions like what exactly happened up in space, why were there 4 Chaos Emeralds with him darkened a bit, and was Robotnik able to get away this time? Instantly, like a flip of a switch, Sonic stands up stiffly, like the mere mention of Robotnik's name triggered an automatic response. This shocks Tails, not getting a good feeling from this unusual mood switch that now befitted the hedgehog, and the sudden darkening of his fur. Sonic turns around to face Tails, calming down as soon as he flared up upon seeing his worried look, Tails' body language being the definition of hesitation. With a tone of confusion and calm, Sonic truthfully tells the Fox that he doesn't remember much after the Chaos Emeralds surrounded him with cool power that he never felt before. To beat down the Doctor's worst creation yet, the power felt super, but Robotnik. The Doctor did something to him. His gut feeling was telling him the rest of the emeralds were definitely in his conniving hand. With urgency, he insists that he'll tell Tails the rest on the way. They needed to chase down the villain as soon as possible, so in quick pace the pair collect the Chaos Emeralds and embark in the skies just like in Canon to reach the crash site of their opposition, Angel Island, in the next day. With the changes in this timeline and without actually having all of the emeralds, Sonic doesn't just blaze onto the island by himself this time. The duo actually land the tornado properly onto the island, Tails immediately taking note of the luscious environment upon getting out, while Sonic, just like back in Sonic 2, can somewhat sense the other emeralds that are definitely in the other zones. Possibly something even bigger. Now knowing everything he can about the situation, Tails prepares to follow Sonic in high-end speeds to explore the upcoming zones and be of use this time. Looking ahead though, Sonic shows signs of slight hesitation, speeding up, almost jogging with caution. Tails being surprised by this out of nature move, knowing Sonic loved running in any environment as long as water wasn't involved. His scientific mind urging him later to use this occasion to study the emeralds more closely and really find out how chaos energy really works. Boosting ahead, Tails decides to emulate the same confidence that inspired him in the first place, passing Sonic in his current speed in the hopes of sparking his usual attitude back, which works as intended, Sonic never wanting to lose a race. Glad to see the change in his best buddy since their first meeting, his smile returning with the "Alright Tails, we'll find that raw egg faster than he can see us." Unbeknownst to them, there's one more factor they will need to worry about. As soon as Sonic was about to pass Tails in distance, bang! A red echidna from the depths of the ground punches Tails out of the sky, and with it having the same amount of power that kicked the super out of Super Sonic, it isn't surprised to say that he lands down KO'd, slumped unconscious. Outraged, Sonic dashes to his body, crouching to see if his fox friend is okay, while the new challenger quickly grabs all the scattered Chaos Emeralds for safekeeping. He then faces the direction of our protagonist, righteously growling that his name was Knuckles. Knuckles the Echidna, the guardian of everything on this island. And it looks like the tip from his new ally was correct in predicting these two treacherous villains would come to this island seeking power that wasn't theirs. Barking that especially he would make sure they didn't come close to the Master Emerald. So telling the Hedgehog he should take his warrior grace and friend out of his home before he's met with the same fate. None of this is on Sonic's mind though, seeing his friend passed out right in front of him when he should have been the one leading, this crazy knucklehead from who knows where, and especially Robotnik. it triggers something sinister. Somewhere in his mind, a door is opened. By who? It doesn't matter, as Sonic goes through the doorway regardless. Sonic begins to stand up as a malevolent dark aura surrounds him. Darkening of his skin tone occurs, and the most noticeable, the irises of his eyes disappear. Turning around chuckling, "Warrior's grace? I'll show you a real warrior." All of this just confirms Knuckles' original assumption. Taking a fighting stance, but bam! Finds himself with a shoe in his chest, with speed at least 5 times faster than original, as multiple kicks spray his body. Knuckles looks to respond but can't. Like a violent tornado, the new persona, Dark Sonic, circles the echidna, floating him up in the air before spin dash slamming him right back into the same hole that he came from. Seeking power? Do I look like I need your power? Sonic quips back. Knuckles, being unable to comprehend the situation, slowly peers out the hole he was just embedded in, wanting to show this dark being how much fight he really has in him, but remembering the fact he has an ally, he bides his time, and uses this opportunity to burrow out the encounter with his first-hand knowledge of the island. Later on, we see a construction facility, newly named Launch Base Zone, as the damaged echidna walks into a nearby housing, licking his wound. That villain, I believe you now. He's just as destructive as you said, Doctor. How could someone so cocky have such a large affinity to chaos energy? Whatever you're planning, best believe I'll be down to aid you now. Glad you see things through my perspective, my red friend. Robotnik turns around with the 3 other darkened chaos emeralds, as he hollers that with his bronze and his brains, they'll be unstoppable, thinking to himself secretly that with his new creation just about ready on the back burner, the mystery behind this chaos energy is right in his grasp, leaving off with the Doctor smiling, getting wider, as this is where I'll be leaving the story for right. The previous part, and an even worse first impression than in canon, has led to the angry-filled Guardian, Knuckles, and Dr. Robotnik to forming a strong alliance against our heroes. Moving to the ironically named Hidden Palace Zone, Knuckles begins to show how much trust he's given the Doctor by showing him the ancient morals of his culture, depicting many strange and prophetic events. Even though Robotnik is more intrigued by the Master Emerald that he guards, and even the so-called Super Emerald Shrine that Knuckles loosely explains that it's been a legend lost to time, him only really knowing that every couple centuries it blesses an individual pure of heart with a power-up so enormous it'll put the 7 Chaos Emeralds to shame, almost like it's a one-time power-up. Echidna, rather than show me forgotten powers and legends, why don't you show me something more concrete? I was just getting to that. What I brought up earlier is just around the corner. The 2 teammates find themselves in front of a familiar mural that we should all recognize. The painting depicts a strange golem-like machine, while on the other side a creature with a yellow aura opposes it. For his whole adolescent life, the Red Echidna has always wanted to know what the painting really meant, which side he should be rooting for to reclaim the Master Emerald, but after what happened earlier, he thinks he now knows which side of good that is now, while turning around to the definition of circumference for his opinion. Staring at the mural himself now, said circumference reminisces, noticing that just like his grandfather, he's now also been able to study the ancient Echidna ruins. But instead of getting inspiration for creations like a possible ultimate life form, all he sees is that strange, evil anomaly that he saw in the Death Egg. Totally unlike the cocky blue brat he's been dealing with these past adventures, honestly scaring the guy a little bit since he did play a role in that accident. Of course, my red friend, it had to be fate for us to stand together against that blue rat. Snapping his fingers, Robotnik summons multiple egg robos, hollering that now having all 7 Chaos Emeralds in his possession, the plan would be for Knuckles and his creations, the knowledge of a native on their side, to track down our protagonists and take them out for good, while he had a few finishing touches on his greatest creation to solve, and also that Master Emerald to take, but he said that part eternally. Knuckles does have a strange suspicion of the Doctor hanging around in the back of his mind, and even the strange coloring of the lesser emeralds, but his mind has already been made up as he prepares himself to embark on his mission. Meanwhile, back with our protagonist in Angel Island Zone, just like his best buddy in the last part, Tails finds himself groggily waking up from his own strong impact, Sonic waiting there beside him with a fruit to boot, sharing it while he gets back on his leg. Now Tails doing the questioning of what happened to him this time, the only response response from the blue blur being, "It seems that's just more than Robotnik we're gonna have to worry about. A red native knucklehead too, but I'll make sure I beat him next time. You can count on it," with a clenching of his fists. Sonic purposely leaving out what happened during that encounter, not wanting to bring out but any more worry or crush the new confidence his sidekick was starting to have. The intellect of the fox deducting that something was definitely being left out here, it having to do with Sonic's new condition. He decides to turn his suspicions into motivation for now, as he wasn't going to be able to solve anything without studying the Chaos Emeralds himself, with Sonic leading forward with his slight chaos energy sensing as they both embark on their own mission in supersonic speeds to explore the floating island, find Robotnik and take the emeralds off his conniving hands. Now truly transitioning to the events of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, our protagonists travel across many zones and biomes that are very varied for a supposedly tropical floating island, like Hydrocity Zone, which required Sonic to be bailed out like a little kid because even with his boosted stats here, swimming was still a no-go as Tails paddles the hedgehog back to shore. Next being Marble Garden Zone, whose beautiful scenery reminds Sonic of the luscious environment back on Little Planet. The stories being told just raring Tails to go see the place for himself and hopefully experiment on this whole time traveling phenomenon. But it is not until Ice Cap Zone where Sonic's senses gain any leads. Traveling down an icy mountain as Sonic snowboards coolly with Tails flying behind him, and especially with no food or movies in sight, it brings around the perfect opportunity for an ambush. Immediately, the duo is aghast when out of the mountainside, multiple egg robos and some sort of crusher machine piloted by familiar Red Echidna attacks them while sliding down the slope, Knuckles causing an avalanche with his new toy to hopefully get rid of the invaders by more forceful means, basically mirroring how he was acting in Sonic Advance 2 if you guys know that. Multiple beams head for Tails attempting to shoot him out of the sky. Sonic, sensing the dangers around him, maneuvers around to fight the bots as the snow inches closer and closer, having eye contact with Knuckles the entire exchange with an angered glint in his eye. But before any old grudges can be settled though, our two-tailed fox's plan is already in the works, purposely drawing the beams to hit Knuckles' new machine before calling up Sonic to spin dash with him in midair. Trusting his best friend instead of the power inside of him, the blue and yellow blurs pair up as a new collective spin dash never seen before rams through all the robots at the perfect hypotenuse angle that only trigonometry knowledge would know. Tails after carrying Sonic off to the next zone as they can hear Knuckles' temper tantrum yells from below. This basically becomes the way of things for a while as Sonic and Tails go throughout the various zones and always end up having a boss battle with the Echidna and a new contraption for him to use, and even Robotnik joining up a couple times, the Doctor clearly holding back his anger as the Roro like Knuckles doesn't exactly have the best finesse when it comes to using machines or fights altogether that doesn't use his fists as the main problem solver. It is not until during the iconic Big Arms boss fight that Sonic begins to notice something. The inner power in him is giving him slight awareness, saying, "The emeralds are in their tails, one on each arm and the last one's in the core. Egghead, you're gonna tell me what you did to me." Tails being shocked when a dark essence follows his hero just like back in Hilltop Zone, going band for band with both arms that Tails knows Sonic should be able to handle normally. Each Chaos Emerald is described to have almost limitless power. How is Sonic going toe-to-toe with two of them? Noticing the losing streak though, Sonic isn't angry enough to actually fully transform this time. Tails panically insisting that they should dive out the ship, since with the current altitude he should be able to fly the duo down safely. But strangely, Sonic growls that the Chaos Emeralds are in there, and he instinctively needed to have them, and he wasn't gonna let the Doctor get away this time, continuing the battle regardless. While Robotnik retorts that I'll gladly take the hedgehog out of his misery. The new shade of blue befitted a pest like himself. Taking initiative surprisingly, Tails actually tackles Sonic out of there, both hazily landing on a bouncy planned Mushroom Hill Zone. Before our main protagonist can get up and ask his own questions, our two-tailed fox surprisingly demands Sonic to be upfront about what really happened when they first came here, because he really wasn't acting like his usual self clearly. Sonic was always cocky, but never to this degree. Calming down from the surprise press that Tails just put him through, Sonic loosely explains what he remembers. Getting angry, a door opening in his mind, and some sort of evil voice in his head that got on his nerves. By the time the duo actually go back to adventuring together, they've deduced that anger is the trigger to activating the negative chaos energy inside of him. Tails hypothesizing for now, the power wasn't exactly dangerous, but it does cloud Sonic's judgment in exchange for power, kinda like a couple guys in a different universe. Unbeknownst to them though, both being intelligent minds, Tails is not the only one to make this discovery, and that individual's plan was about to go off without a hitch. Alright dog, breaking the fourth wall a little bit, I think it's about time for the battle we've all been waiting for. Sonic's inner chaos radar rings in his head harder than ever before, as our protagonists enter the mystical hidden palace zone. Tails gawking at the ancient manuscripts as Sonic preps himself confidently, as the feeling in his gut was telling him he was about to have a fight like no other, and this time there was no way he was gonna hesitate. The fastest thing alive does get his wish. Going through the next corridor with the same moral we saw earlier, stands Knuckles, who for an angry fellow, stands calmly in a fighting stance that his ancestors would be proud of. Sonic speaking up, "So Knucklehead, have you realized you've been getting played by Dr. Omelet yet? Or do you need a little bit of a runaround so it can get through your small brain?" Gruffly replying, "The only thing that'll be going through will be you after this upcoming beatdown. I've learned your trick. Now come at me, Hedgehog, because today's the day I fulfill a prophecy my people have long foretold," as red electricity wraps around him. Tails also prepares to fight with his own fighting stance, but Knuckles, showing his warrior background, barks at the pair that do they not have any honor. Sonic steps forward, telling his friend to hang back. He attempts to argue, but Sonic reassures that the bad feeling from earlier extended to more than just Knuckles, so he needed him to be on the lookout for Robotnik or something. Sonic begins to rev up his feet to make this battle quick, but finds himself tripping as Knuckles shows his preparation by smashing the ground into pieces, leading to the perfect shaky foundation to land a devious jab to the chest of the Hedgehog, sending him flying back to the rubble. Sonic gets up, flash stepping to Knuckles to overwhelm him just like he did last time, with multiple punches in a circle. "Gonna need to be quicker than that, you're too slow." Knuckles grabs onto the arm of the Hedgehog though, replying, "And you're too weak," stopping his assault with a slam as he uses the sharps of his gloves to bury the blue bird in multiple blows like a barrage. Echidna yelling back at Sonic to stop playing with him. He will not be disgraced by his holding back. If he won't show the same dark power than before, then he'll destroy him for good. Chanting in the Echidna tongue as Knuckles' stats begin to increase, with his fist glowing with green energy from the Master Emerald. Tails looking in horror as it seems to be the end of our hero. Fine. With a clenched fist, negative chaos energy returns to the Hedgehog as he double kicks Knuckles out of the way, fully transforming into Dark Sonic, with now Tails witnessing the change fully for himself. Dark Sonic braces his legs with purple electricity in his quills as Knuckles dashes forward to do the same, beginning a true brawl between crash outs as Dark Sonic fully envelops himself into the fight, no longer holding back, moving so fast that the wind behind him causes slices in the air that cuts the Echidna, or even going spin dash for spin dash that he violently wins. Knuckles isn't to be underestimated, however, using his Master Emerald connection and finally having a challenge after all these years, pushes the Echidna to contend with our warped protagonist even as he slowly loses. Kicks going against punches and red streaks of dodges going against the madness of a Hedgehog that just seems to keep getting stronger. Knuckles begins to bob and weave rhythmically because as matched as he is, he still has his head on straight, and with full gusto headbutts the Hedgehog across multiple pillars with pure positive chaos energy that for the first time causes Sonic some pain, almost like that type of energy is his direct opposite, before revving up his feet again in an infinity symbol to kick Knuckles into Kingdom Come. Out of nowhere though, Tails attempts to enter the fray to warn the fighters of something important. Knuckles, still hanging on, attempts to swat the fox away, but with lightning speed the Dark Sonic takes the attack while grabbing his ankles, spinning the red foe like a perfect circle into a slam headlock combo. Tails screaming out to both mammals, with them responding with an annoyed "what?" Just like a bar of soap giving the good guys the slip, our heroes turn back to see Robotnik in a new contraption dashing out of the palace with the Master Emerald to boot, almost congratulating Knuckles for being a good sport and following through with his plan to a T. Stopping the fight, Knuckles angrily retorts that they were supposed to be a team, betraying his trust and making him a fool this entire time. Ha! That was child's play. But don't worry about your little prophecy. I have just the machine ready to fulfill it for you. Especially you, Sonic. It will test your strength and speed in more ways than one. With a snap of his fingers and bye-bye. A blue metallic blur bursts into the room with a red glint in his eyes, with his voice modulator yelling, "I'll crush you!" Gut punching both the Hedgehog and the Echidna into next week, as they're both driven away from the palace into Sky Sanctuary Zone, just like that one super manga panel. Seeing everything fall apart and Sonic no longer at his side, Tails begins to panic, almost returning back to his frightful ways when everyone made fun of him for a genetic mutation that he had no control over, barely having the courage to fly into the next zone himself. Almost on instinct though, while getting hit with ferocious combos by the Terminator, even with his hazy mind too, Sonic realizing what he must do begins to yell with all his might towards Tails' direction. "You can do this, Tails, you've grown. You've already proved all your past bullies wrong ever since Emerald Hill, and now there's just one more bully left for our hero like you to stand up to," before getting knocked away to a nearby cloud. The words hit the Fox's consciousness like a train, staring down at his hands, then entering his own fray, using all of his endurance to chase down Robotnik's getaway vehicle. Knuckles remarking to the Hedgehog that those words were surprisingly noble of him, while Sonic jeers that he's just glad he's starting to think for once and realize he isn't the bad guy here, forming up with the Echidna, saying this faker has at least 4 of the Chaos Emeralds inside of him, so it's gonna be a tough one. With this, viewers, we see 2 epic battles going on simultaneously, with brains against brains, with Tails versus the Good Doctor, while Dark Sonic and Co. go against Mecha Sonic in different parts of Sky Sanctuary. Mecha Sonic showing himself especially as an anomaly, as he seems to almost have the 7 deadly sins of pride, especially, wanting to quickly prove that he wasn't just like his failed brothers, and he was going to destroy the real Hedgehog for himself and surpass this supposed dark power. Rocketing towards both Black and Red with a fully Canon charged up, but sadly he couldn't calculate a limb glitch, as both Dark Sonic and Knuckles hit a pressure point in the ankle. Then tapping into his inner speed force, Sonic quickly does the rest to his mechanical makeup. Surprised at the dark power and barely moving on the ground now, he refused to be taken down so quickly, because he was the mightiest! Immediately, the 4 other Chaos Emeralds whirl in his body as semi-super Mecha Sonic, with a robotic determination, re-enters the battle with chaos energy that puts even Dark Sonic to shame, almost one-shotting the Hedgehog if it wasn't for Knuckles' save. With a serious tone to his voice, the Echidna relinquishes the thought of even winning the battle. They needed the Master Emerald as the senior of the Chaos Emeralds to stop his power so they could win, both looking up to the sky as, beknownst to Tails, everything depended on him. Cutting back to him though, Tails is truly trying his best to dodge and weave the missiles coming out of Robotnik's machine, but his body's on the verge of giving out, not only from the damage but also from the villain purposely flying higher into the atmosphere, so the Fox could slowly use oxygen and go right back to being the scared child he was supposed to be. But as always, Robotnik doesn't understand emotions at all, as the little pep talk from earlier and his attempts in replicating Sonic's courage has lit a fire under Tails that we wouldn't see until Adventure 1. Knowing that he may not have Sonic's speed or Knuckles' strength, he did have the intellect to know that Robotnik having 3 negatively powered Chaos Emeralds near the almighty Master Emerald was gonna cause an explosive reaction whether he knew it or not. Flying forward with the last bit of his strength and grabbing onto the repurposed Death Egg machine, he begins to tactically rip wire after wire to mess up the flow of the energy of the emeralds. The robot begins to splint and splutter comedically as a self-destruct sequence happens, and with the last bit of his consciousness, Tails lands on the senior emerald, making the weight a little bit too imbalanced to be kept up from the machine as both the Master Emerald and the knocked out Tails plummet from the sky. Like a movie scene, the Death Egg robot combusts in the background as the 4 other emeralds scatter across the globe. Dark Sonic smiles from down below, knowing that the explosion was a sign that his trust in his best friend was in the the right place. Turning around chuckling though, as he cracks his own knuckles with the echidna sharing the same name follows. With Mecha Sonic no longer having any of his superpower, he gets treated with a true positive and negative energy infused beatdown before the mechanical copy is booted off the edge of Sky Sanctuary Zone like a piece of trash. Finally pinging an end to our predicament, Sonic looks up into the sky, growling to his companion that they needed to catch Tails right now. Powerful gem or not, he wasn't going to survive that fall. The dark essence in Sonic conveniently petering out from the battles of the day, Knuckles steps up though, telling the Hedgehog he'll make sure he makes it. Cartoonly grabbing the Hedgehog and spinning him around to throw him across the biomes of Angel Island. Looking back as a thanks, Sonic begs whatever evil guy, thing, voice, or whatever is inside him to give him one last boost to catch his best friend. Like a transaction has been processed, dark energy only envelops his legs, being barely enough to catch Tails and the Master Emerald in midair before crashing down to a nearby cloud into the ocean below, both being slumped unconscious on top of the Master Emerald. Later on though, we find Sonic and Tails groggily waking up from their injuries near the Master Emerald Shrine. Seeing Knuckles patiently wait for the duo to wake up, he remarks that it was a true test of strength to be carrying two people and the Master Emerald at the same time back up here. Embarrassingly though, he apologizes for his original assumption of the pit, as Sonic responds with a no problem knucklehead, glad it took only the danger of his island to figure that part out. Sonic uses the opportunity also to congratulate his best bud, smiling that the Fox looked very cool today, especially with that stunt that he pulled. Now truly realizing how far he's come, Tails looks down embarrassed as both boys tease him on his accomplishments. Now being the best opportunity though, Tails turns around asking Knuckles if he knows anything about Sonic's condition. Actually giving some thought to this, he replies knowing only one event where negative chaos energy was used on such a scale, solemnly reminding him that it's also the main reason why he stands as the last remaining member of his tribe today. This being the scene we leave off at, as unbeknownst to all protagonists, antagonists, and anti-heroes, near the cliff sides of Lava Reef Zone, a robotic sound echoes around the cave. Due to the nature of his decommissioning, the Sonic Terminator still hangs onto his AI mainframe, as his red eyes light up one more time, now knowing he has all the data he needs from the previous fight to fulfill his own ambition. Deviating from the Doctor's programming and researching the Doctor's database installed in him, especially getting interest on the mysterious Phantom Ruby, as this is where I'll be leaving the story off for right now. Focusing back to our story, after the chaotic incident on Angel Island in the last part, we shift our perspective to the loser of the encounter, Dr. Robotnik, angrily patting his clothes down from his rough and hard landing as he paces back and forth, with it now being the fourth time that this meddlesome hedgehog has ruined his plans. Regardless of all his preparation, tricking the native, taking the Master Emerald, and even some of the Chaos Emeralds in his grasp, he still came out with no Eggman land, gritting his teeth of all the times for his nemesis' tag along to get a backbone. It would be right when his plan was just about to succeed, testing the Doctor's pride that he, an IQ of 300, couldn't have realized a chaotic reaction like that would have happened sooner or later. Robotnik began to murder. Of course, Mecha's location sensors aren't responding. Blasted. His data on Sonic's dark power were crucial for my revenge. Maybe I should have just continued with the Metal series as originally planned. Oh well, I can always just... It's with that thought that our antagonist remembers that his spaceship / home base that contained most of his resources in said Metal series was still chilling next to a volcano back on Angel Island. Add the fact that his sensors were telling him that 2 of the emeralds did manage to land where he was at, and the third truly landing back on the surface, he really was gonna have to try and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Turning back as he recalls the 5 egg robots that were scouting the area, grabbing his tools with a grin as he readies himself to prepare the squad for an even higher purpose. Switching our perspective back to the trio by the Master Emerald, Knuckles had already relayed the little he knew of his people's history, and ironically, Robotnik's studying of the Merles had helped to his annoyance in him discovering some of his culture being connected back to this beast known as Chaos. The servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power, enriched by the heart. Does this prayer have to do with how the emeralds are used or something? Maybe emotions? Tails slowly hypothesizes while sitting down, giving himself time to think. All while Knuckles attempts to meditate with Sonic, not really being the type to stand still and being adamant that they should be more worried about getting the other Chaos Emeralds instead. But after further insistence from both of his friends, he sits down and gives it a try. Closing his eyes for a little bit, he tries to focus deep inside himself for the first time, reminiscing on that strange moment when he was talking to himself. Or was it someone else? This spiritual stuff isn't working, Knucklehead. Let's just get a move on already. By now, we could have easily explored the nearby island and got the answers out of Robotnik in record time. Maybe if you actually had patience, we would have discovered something by now. Yeah, like you, the guardian that fought us on first sight with no questions, embody patience. But before anything can escalate, and almost like the universe wanted to prove Sonic's point immediately, what seems like a strange plushy looking robot surrounded with a red prism teleports by the altar, antagonizing our heroes by being close to the Master Emerald, which ends up working pretty well. Knuckles already being gone, yelling and chasing down the robot away like it's a hereditary instinct. Sonic rolls his eyes at the situation, but nevertheless speeds ahead to follow the echidna as Tails takes the Chaos Emeralds with him, eventually leading our unofficial Team Sonic, finding themselves in the forest of Botanic Base Zone on Neutronic Island. Slowing down now, Knuckles looks around cluelessly for the machine as it seems the devious looking doll must have hid itself in plain sight. Deciding to split up now to cover more ground, Tails takes flight to look above the trees while Knuckles glides mid-range to look at his blind spots. Sonic by himself now grins, decides to use this opportunity to test this whole chaos energy sensing thing. The other Chaos Emeralds were definitely around here regardless, and they needed to be in safe hands after all. His hands. Sonic then zooms all around the green forest, inadvertently getting better at this whole sensing chaos energy thing, as he can just about feel around this bush that there is an emerald nearby, all of his instincts pushing himself to grab it, but wham! A headbutt in cartoon proportions takes place. Charming, you gotta watch where you're going, you don't just touch every shiny thing you see. Looking up now, our protagonist sees the figure of a childish looking bee and a towering alligator rocking a pair of expensive headphones with a disappointed look on his face. Charmy rubbing the back of his head, complaining to Vector that they're here for treasure hunting after all. If the three of them were gonna open that detective agency he was so hyped about, they needed the money. Pouting that he probably would have just walked past the gym if they kept walking the same direction. Sonic then gets up from his headache, eyeing up the emerald in the hyperactive bee's hand. Initially being cordial, the hedgehog introduces himself and gruffly asks for the emerald back. The thing wasn't just some random treasure, but sadly, hyperactive isn't the only term to describe Charmy. He's also hard-headed, refusing to give it back like a little kid. Sonic just grins though, with a Flash already having the emerald back in his hand with speedy swagger. Vector's eyes almost pop out like a cartoon character, but before he can do anything himself, suddenly Sonic looks down at his own hands and finds the emerald gone. Almost like it's floating in midair before a stern but almost virtuous voice speaks up. The ninja of the Chaotix trio, Espio the Chameleon, makes his appearance, leering at the hedgehog with justice-like tonality as he sticks up for his always more troublesome partner, that since he found the gem first, shouldn't it be fair that he keep it? Coming out of nowhere and vaguely explaining why the emerald was important wasn't gonna cut it, as he tries to de-escalate the situation. But escalating the situation seems to be the only thing on Sonic's mind, as for some reason he just couldn't stand not having the emerald with him. I'm not asking you twice, Chameleon. Before an electrifying spin dash bursts forward, striking Espio, using the momentum to try and forcefully grab the emerald from his hands. But the purple reptile isn't to be underestimated, as he uses his ninjutsu to have the emerald stick to his hand continuously, while the other hand quickly forms hand signs to summon two clones to kick the hedgehog out of his grasp. This loud impact finally alerts Tails and Knuckles on the ongoing commotion, as it isn't long until we find ourselves seeing a 3v3 battle royale going on against Team Sonic and Team Chaotix, with Tails taking on Charmy and Knuckles Vector. In the midst of the scuffle though, Knuckles tries to angrily yell at Sonic to calm down while dodging a bite from the alligator. It isn't until Tails shrieks himself at the hedgehog that he notices that even without thinking, he was in that dark form again, just when he was about to throw a devastating kick towards Espio. Sonic steps back, wondering as he looks at his quills on why he changed so easily. But before getting a chance to realize why, a red beep whirls as a yellow flash surrounds each opposing group. Everyone, and especially Tails, are shocked when they look up to see a plush, robotic version of the sidekick floating up in the air with an emotionless look on his face that could be used for some interesting stories. The speaker from the plush communicates that
plan is success, enemies feathered and given the slip per plan A.
Knuckles, not thinking though, and having enough of robotic copies lately, jumps in to fight, but is then slammed right back to the ground with force. Looking down at his glove, it was forcefully clutching some sort of weird ring that was connected to another ring that annoying Bee was holding. Knowing the situation was now in his favor, the Tails doll radiates a signal, alerting 3 of the newly formed hard-boiled heavies that pull up in a helicopter to snatch the 5th Chaos Emerald before launching a missile as a goodbye, blasting away our heroes almost to a carnivalistic location, beaming of Robotnik's advertising and other cringy slogans, temporarily forming a truce because if any of them were going to have any chance of finding that 5th or even 6th Chaos Emerald, they were going to have to work together. Even with how strange some of these new pairings were, allowing us to finally transition to this manified version of Knuckles Chaotix. Starting in the world entrance stage that serves as the main hub for the island, with some weird roulette wheel taking place to determine where to go, our tethered team is surprised when the transportation roulette is guarded by some sort of strange robot named Bomb. Attempting to pose threatening, but after Knuckles and Charmy step forward with intention to break it apart, it scarily explodes and it regenerates, knocking down the 2 on Cartoon faction. Eventually, Vector finds out from the robot that it's been feeling rather low. Ever since his higher-ups, the Heavies, have been here, he's lost where his robotic best friend Heavy has been. So then, with a sense of pride, the crocodile assures that this will be an easy task for the world's best upcoming detective agency. Like on cue and the model they follow, the members of the Chaotix drag their Team Sonic counterparts to the stage selector to find such a friend and the Chaos Emeralds, as each duo is rocketed away to a different part of the island. Shifting to where Knuckles and Charmy landed, it was really starting to get to the Guardian's head of how annoying this elastic bond gimmick was. The dang bee Charmy couldn't just sit still, buzzing away his sanity both figuratively and literally across Botanic Basin. The bee agonizingly pointing out every little detail of their surroundings, all while he plays planks and really presses the echidna on his naivety, generally starting to ask what role the bee even plays in his team. The scouting capabilities of the bee is made apparent, zooming ahead while dragging Knuckles in the process. The eventual trail of huge steps in oil ends up leading back to what seems to be the robot Heavy. Look out! With wind-breaking speed, missiles are fired from the helicopter contraption of Heavy Gunner, as the duo moves around to catch the lost robot themselves before it gets caught in the crossfire, gliding across and punching the missiles back to its originator. Charmy's overzealousness almost gets the duo surrounded by the obstacle if it wasn't for Heavy using his defense to cover both of them, having gained some respect for the echidna for the same boxing skills that he practiced himself. It isn't long until Heavy Gunner is utterly destroyed by a Dempsey roll between both fighters, as Charmy cockily ends the robot with a flick of his finger, the trio celebrating like a bunch of lost brothers, but sadly leading them to never being able to guess the real danger behind them. Switching gears back to Sonic and SP on Techno Tower, already finding the 6th Emerald in the zone, the original resentment between the duo has begun to die down, the Chameleon now seeing himself that the Hedgehog also stood up for justice, but just in a more undisciplined manner. This allows for the duo to sharpen each other's skills a little bit, the Chameleon being pushed towards his affinity for speed with Sonic as his partner, but the Hedgehog himself getting at least a bit of a better understanding of this whole meditation thing. But Sonic still believes it's not really worth his time. Just standing still was against his nature. SPO grunts in response that anything worth something takes time, noting his experience as the Chaotix investigator towards that point, especially pointing out with Sonic's whole dark energy thing that he needed to take this stuff more seriously, asking for the Hedgehog to hand over the emerald to him to prove the point. Just when Sonic is about to follow, even with him almost having to resist all his instincts to not do it, suddenly a mace is thrown out between the duo, stretching the tethering beyond his capabilities as they try to move out of the way, which leaves the perfect opportunity for Heavy Magician to swoop over and take the emerald by force. But Sonic switches up and spin dashes the hat away, all bouncing back to the ground where the Magician and his partner Heavy Rider, with his confident looking Motobug, prepared to scrap. As with a white flash, the Magician transforms into Amy. Espio, not really getting the reaction, dashes forward regardless, using his invisibility to get a critical hit on the imposter. But an Amy that knows what to throw hands isn't to be messed with, as the imposter almost pummels the chameleon with his own fake hammer, almost tripping also as the rumbling ground of Heavy Rider Akira slides over to Espio with a successful mace strike, knocking the ninja back to his partner. Upon getting up, the chameleon urges the hedgehog should not fight with his emotions, noticing that the two rotund robots were more interested in targeting the speedster than himself. Like a sign of confirmation, the Tails doll makes his appearance known again, responding with his squeaky microphone that always makes sense to take down the most dangerous one first. Very curious on what makes the blue idiot so inspirational to his cop, Sonic bristles at this fact, throwing himself in another spin dash while dragging SB on the process. Just when he was about to hit his mark, bingo. Immediately, paralyzation is felt by both of our heroes, and then with an emotionless look like he saw this coming, the plush uses his telekinesis to send the duo back to the ground, where the two heavies quickly knock them out for safekeeping. The plush doll then commands them to take the two back to where the rest were located. Initiate the extractor. He wanted to see if his own intelligence surpassed his inspiration. Meanwhile, Tails, Vector, and Bomb have found themselves right back to the world entrance stage, finding out nothing on their trip to Speed Slider Zone, even though Bomb did have a great time on those roller coaster rides. Tails, in a little bit of fear, tries to think about every little possible outcome of what could have happened to everyone else, when Vector comes to a realization that blows his mind, just straight up walking up to Bomb and realizing that isn't he just another Robotnik robot, asking the guy straight up if he knows where this secret base of operations the evil doll is hiding in is. And with a "oh yeah," the little robot starts walking towards a different direction, Tails looking dumbfounded while Vector follows with glee, showing his own detective skills of just asking basic questions coming through for the squad. Arriving at the designated area, Tails, Dell, and the two heavies are appalled when they see the trio just casually walk into their lab, the rest of our heroes being held down in what seems to be an extractor machine. The extractor machine being able to use any ability of anyone that was trapped in the extractor. Finally meeting face to face, the excitement coming from the robot couldn't be any higher, as he dashes forward with his jewel changing from red to blue, shrieking, "Can you feel the sunshine?" Tails meets him with a spin dash but is overpowered easily, as the jewel's adaptation of Sonic's speed too much for him to handle. As it shifts to red though, Vector meets the attack with a hard tackle of his own, pushing both fighters back as he still gears over to Tails, beginning to change himself into an Espio-like tornado as he does devastating damage to the fox, but Vector steps back with another attack towards the feral creature. Tails knew he was the only one that could think of a plan to get them out of this, finally being given some time to think, but then thinking about the psychology of his copy, he gets an idea, shouting out at Bomb to get in between their tethering. While him and Vector kept running forward, the ring tether starts to stretch to its limit as they keep both running forward as it wraps around Bomb like a pillar. Refusing to let this slide, Tails Dolls orders the heavies to stop the duo from running. Heavy Rider and Magician begin to pummel the fox and crocodile from proceeding further, as the plush himself uses his invisibility to appear behind Bomb, not getting how such a lowly Robotnik creation could be useful for such a dumb strategy. In synchronization though, our duo endures the pain, because they both know that the little guy only reacted one way towards fear, immediately causing the ring tether to split. With all the leftover momentum, Tails and Vector attempt to fly off, but Tails doesn't have the same energy as the crocodile, only doing half as much damage to their respective robot, while a green streak flies over to the extractor machine, blowing it up in the process. Finally, we're out of that thing. Good tackle, Vector. Yeah, I didn't know a fat guy like you could do so much damage. Sonic and Knuckles though notice the situation isn't over yet. As the smoke clears, the sight of Tails and the 5th and 6th Chaos Emerald all being wrapped in a telekinetic hole. Everyone else besides the exhausted Vector prepared for one last rumble. But before any scrapping can be done, a red Robotnik alarm blares throughout the room. Sonic, not wanting to be fooled by the doll again, steps forward to still fight anyways. The rumbling of the ground though changes his mind. Like a protocol's been initiated, the two heavies and Tails doll immediately escape into egg pods of their own in sudden haste. Even with a robotic makeup, the sense of panic clearly shown on their faces was apparent. Knuckles doesn't hesitate though, begins to bury a tunnel out of there for everyone to get out, while Sonic grabs an exhausted Tails with a fist bump of acknowledgement. By the time everyone's outside, the reason for the earthquake was made apparent, as the gigantic figure of the Death Egg spaceship finally leaving Angel Island was there for everyone to see. But for some reason, Sonic and Knuckles can sense that there wasn't just any ordinary energy coming out of that ship. It wasn't the Aster Emerald, and for sure wasn't the 4 of the Chaos Emeralds with them. What was it? A plan was set. Sonic and Tails immediately beginning preparations to embark on the tornado. He wasn't gonna let Robotnik get away this time. The two already blasting off in altitude before any help can even be offered. The Echidna Warrior wasn't gonna go anyway, as he did leave the Master Emerald alone for too long, but he wouldn't be lying if he said he wasn't worried about them, because he definitely had a bad feeling about this, as the Chaotix themselves hesitate on what they want to do. We now cut toward a brutal imagery upon the Death Egg. The barely functioning shells of Metal Sonic, Silver Sonic, Heavy King, and Heavy Ninja all laid upon the metal floor, defeated, while the figure of a familiar enemy with a dark and metallic sheen clutches the Phantom Ruby in his hand, as his ambition of no longer just being a mere Sonic copy was just about to be proven to himself, knowing his pitiful creator had definitely called for backup. And that backup had 2 of his emeralds with him. All he needed to do himself was get that last one that was located in Station Square. As unbeknownst to both Sonic nor his evil incarnation, the last 7th Chaos Emerald, the one that fell towards the surface after the Angel Island showdown, was discovered by someone we should all be familiar with. Because whether she knew it or not, the innocent Amy Rose was now the current target of, without question, the most powerful mechanized evil force the world has ever seen. As we'll be seeing in the next part of how such a rise happened. Servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power, enriched by the heart. The server exists to unify the Chaos. Speed, power, evolution. These were all the ideas in the mind of Dr. Robotnik when he created his most devastating creation yet, getting his way and then being used as a tool for however long he wanted for world domination. No, he wasn't gonna be just a simple role. Skimming through all the databases of all his past incarnations, his brothers in a way, they all failed, not being able to completely outdo Sonic in his speed or heroics. He thought he was going to be different. He was a superior model after all. Then the battle at Angel Island happened, and he became exactly what he despised. Another failed Sonic copy from a long list of past and probably future incarnations for the upcoming years. No, he refused to have such a role. The Phantom Ruby changed all of that. If only his short-minded creator just delved more into Angel Island's history, he may have found it. How ironic was it when his inventor was surprised when he arrived at the Death Egg first, fully adapted to his own new dark power, holding his new ticket to devastation, pleading dumb statements like, "Mecha, what are you doing? You must obey, you blasted machine." The doctor really had peaked with him. He could see his worriness as he threw every past machine, including his 2 past brothers, Metal and Silver Sonic, at him. Silver had the power but none of the speed, and Metal Sonic gave him the most challenge, all of the speed, looking like he had his own ambition to one day create his own plans to take down the organic copy, making it all the better when he obliterated his mechanical makeup to become almost that of lost junkyard material. Even this new Heavy series line did their best. The Doctor was really quick to move on to even worse machines as he destroyed the staff and sword of both Heavies with relative ease. Starting at the Phantom Ruby, I can feel. Immediately, we're met with the scene of the optimistic hedgehog Amy Rose sitting down during a sunset in Station Square as she stares at a Chaos Emerald she just found a couple hours ago, having a bad feeling in her stomach as she's been wanting to meet back with Sonic for a long while now, but lately the tarot cards about our hero have been looking very disheveled lately. Deciding to get up and walk her worries off, suddenly civilians begin to panic and scream. Confused at this, the pink heroine turns around to see a gigantic station she's never seen before appear. The Death Egg was quickly approaching Station Square with deafening speeds, carelessly crashing through multiple buildings. The hatchet opening as the Terminator Mecha Sonic walks straight forward towards Amy with militaristic pace. All the rest of the defeated machines and Robotnik sprawling out of the station, both being defeated and having worried looks on their faces. We cut to Sonic and Tails on the Tornado trying to reach Station Square in time with their 4 own emeralds. Tails knew all 7 emeralds being on one spot soon enough wouldn't be a good thing, but Sonic was getting impatient at this point, telling Tails that he would meet him ahead. Before he can reject, Sonic jumps off to the water below, running with adrenaline that he's never met before as purple aura surrounds him. Beginning to feel a new ability inside him as without knowing, Sonic unlocks his boost ability early, rushing towards Station Square, growling while doing so with thunderous speeds like he did Knuckles. Instantly, Sonic dive kicks into Mecha Sonic in Station Square, surprising Amy as purple electricity cackles on both sides. Sonic starts by saying he didn't think Robotnik's bucket of balls was still up and kicking, taking my new shade of blue too. But what's to expect from a long line of fakers trying to outdo the original? But don't worry, the fastest thing alive is here to grind you down to spare parts for Tails to use. Mecha Sonic just retorts back menacingly. Your futile attempts at bravado won't be saving you here, Sonic. I've merely calibrated and adapted your strange phenomenon within myself. But what you failed to mention in your drivel is what happens to anything original when technology is given enough time to surpass its functions in every way. And what's that, Mecha? As Sonic clenches his fists, it becomes infectual, useless. Locking engineering power with chaos power as Mecha Sonic propels for a mean haymaker that Sonic is barely able to block, as both organic and machine then trade multiple kicks between each other with electrifying seed, both purple auras trying to douse the other. Sonic shows his metal copy that he's not playing after he drop dashes after a missed hook, pushing the machine towards a building, but has to put his new ability to good use as the creator releases multiple missiles that the Hedgehog evades, allowing him to get distracted for a devious spin dash in the gut. Mecha then drags his organic copy across the roads of Station Square, Sonic countering as they both begin to make a makeshift race between each other across the city. Amy was now bound to her spot in fear, not only questioning why an even scary version of Metal Sonic was here, but how Sonic looked. His pupils were gone, fur looking different. What happened to her whole knight in shining armor for him to become so unnerving? Looking down at the Chaos Emerald, she even sees the emerald gray out a little bit due to the response in the battle going on. She had to help out somehow, and if that meant this gem not getting in his hands, then she was all up for it, looking for a hiding spot as she prays for the protagonist's safety. It isn't looking good though for said protagonist. The beginning stretch, Sonic had clearly had the upper hand, using everything in his toolkit. Drop dashes, spin dashes, kicks, punches, even instinctually trying out the instant shield for the first time in this transformation, which now mutated into a razor spear of wind. The Hedgehog chuckling that he was glad Knuckles wasn't here. He was able to now dish out all this frustration himself. The Hedgehog though would begin to realize that his doppelganger seemed to just be getting stronger after each series of attacks, his diagnostics mimicking Sonic's own power, almost like he was purposely getting hit by Sonic's egregious attack. The Terminator humming with a This doesn't break Sonic's spirit though, him gladly letting loose in a manic spy himself. All that self-control talk, warring from Tails. If he just beat the bad guys quick enough, then that's all that matters, aggressive methods or not. His opponent though decides to switch methods, specifically to the emeralds. Mecha Sonic will begin to pivot mid-air, zooming back towards Amy for the last Chaos Emerald. Angered even further, Sonic barely kicks to defend, using the cooldown to again spin dash towards Amy. Sonic would counter again, asking loud, "You're not getting that emerald. I will. You leave Amy out of this." The robot responds, another critique that he wasn't going to have unlike his original, and that was a concern for any life around him. He lacked the ability to throw everything at him regardless of consequences. This pattern repeating till Sonic is the first one to be too slow. Mecha landing a clean slap towards Amy, knocking the 7th Emerald in the air. The pink hedgehog barely able to stand up after attack before Sonic grabs her and puts her to safety. Amy though looks at Sonic with fear. Him rocking the same power as the robot wasn't helping things. Dark Sonic was now angrier than ever, using his new boost ability to break apart Mecha's leg lift, malfunctioning it, then uppercutting the machine to a nearby building, pouncing back to his copy to do another series of blows, but Mecha decides to return the favor twofold, smashing both his fists against Sonic's arms, rendering them temporarily useless. Another weakness I'll fail to have. Once I have all 7 emeralds and combine his abilities with the Phantom Ruby, I'll be the mightiest. When all hope seems lost for the mechanical copy, as he's just about to reach the emerald, but like a W sidekick, Tails finally swoops in with the tornado, grabbing the Chaos Emerald at the same time. Tails, Doll, and the 2 heavy partners, Magician and Rider, also make their appearance in Station Square at the same time, here to aid their creator in their predicament. Robotnik now, finally having the confidence to show himself by the perimeter of the Death Egg, cartoonishly has his creation surround him like shields. The Doctor was in a panic, not noticing the remains of Metal and Silver Sonic power back on their own for their own desperate plan. With a robotic beep of so many ants, so little time, Mecha Sonic starts his routine by using one of his last few missiles to blow up the tornado into smithereens. He then goes to battle Tails Doll, where even with his copied abilities, he's barely keeping up with his senior. The adapting effects finally wearing off. Heavy Rider and Magician jump into fight as well. Mecha though grabs the modal bug of Rider and sends them both up into the sky to be destroyed by an upcoming energy beam, while then turning around to a Magician whose illusionary effects can't match the Phantom Ruby protecting the Sonic robot, using the gem actually to drain any of its magical machinery away before being flattened under the foot of Mecha Sonic, finally taking a break to admire his handiwork, collecting the emeralds in their possession. Tails, Amy, and surprisingly even Robotnik for the first time have come to a truce, surrounding Sonic on what they can possibly do. All 3 of them noticing that as Sonic's condition, hair no longer staying up but still with the same color tint. The Hedgehog then began to desperately ask where the emeralds were located. It was their only way of getting out of this situation. The good Doctor was wary of this. The only way to win in this situation was to take the Phantom Ruby from his hands. Tails in this state, being the only one with any significant speed to do such attacks, creates a mock plan in his head to try, even as he shivered. Following just like Sonic said, he was a hero now. No more bullies could affect him. Everyone rebukes such an idea, even Sonic, but it's already too late. Mecha Sonic dashes forward to the group with one good leg as a revenge for earlier, preparing to power up with all 7 emeralds in the vicinity. Tails flies forward anyways, but when he sees the menacing look on the machine, just for a second, all of his Freddy Fox nature returns back to him. Freezing midair in fear, with the last thing he sees is a blue blur barely getting in front of him, and buildings. Gravity that disobeys the laws of logic in constant rain. This is the environment Sonic the Hedgehog suddenly wakes up to, blinking twice as he tries to make sure that he didn't croak out or anything, considering he was just in a life-threatening battle just now. Getting up from his position, the Hedgehog slowly walks around in this weird dimension, as regardless of what was going on, he had a pretty bad feeling about this place. It isn't long on the Hedgehog's stroll that he comes across himself? Oh brother, another faker. Who are you supposed to be? Sonic replies, with the strange copy menacingly saying, I'm the only reason why your buddy is still alive. Or do you not remember our deal, partner? This other visage of Sonic fidgeted forward to meet face to face, creepy in his movements but nothing more noticeable than the spiral eyes where his pupils were supposed to be, showing an almost demonic nature. Sonic, having enough of copies lately, thinks this guy is crazy, but with a snap of his fingers, Sonic suddenly remembers. The copy would begin to tap his feet impatiently like the hedgehog would, grinning wider as he begins to monologue that he didn't get this whole heroic stuff the hedgehog was on. Why not tear everything apart? The power he gave to him was all for that purpose after all. And he was letting that dang doctor and a weak excuse of them cause that much destruction? Nah, it was his turn to go out there. Sonic shocked at this but still not backing down, saying he didn't need his help. The fastest thing alive, saying he had more friends to save and less hallucinations to have. After taking a look into the other Sonic's eyes, all the memory would flash. He left the death egg, that time-saving Tails. Even when he turned into his dark form for the first time, he could swear there was always a whisper in his head talking. Even that whole meditation practice Knuckles was trying to make him do. Playing along now, Sonic crosses his arms and asks what's with this whole fascination with the emeralds anyway. The spiral-eyed clone just grins back with the same confidence, saying that's where he was born from. The blessing from the emeralds, the negative chaos energy from Robotnik and Sonic's body all culminated in his very being. It's only with the emeralds he can be himself. Chaos, destruction, but most of all, power. That's all he wanted to have fun with, and whether his partner liked it or not, they were stuck together for the long run, still grinning that he still had his end of the bargain to fulfill. We are going to destroy that machine and Robotnik forever. Stretching an arm out for the bluebird to shake, but getting a bad feeling out of this like anyone do, he waves the demonic reflection off with a wave. Suddenly though, the mental realm begins to shake with a yellow tint. Turning around with a fake look of concern, the elder Sonic says there wasn't much time left, wasn't there? That Mecha Sonic was going to power up to his own super form. And with his injuries and all, his friends were done for, and he would end up killing all of his friends in the area. At least, before he did, but he said that last part in his head. Sonic replies with a what? I don't need a fake copy of me talking. I'll just get everyone out of here with my speed, and immediately responding back, speed? Beginning to laugh manically. Where was this speed back on Angel Island? Or did you forget what happened with Tails? For the first time in a while, the Hedgehog's cocky nature breaks temporarily. Putting both his arms wider like a theater performance, the demon says, so what's it gonna be then? You can feel the chaos energy, can't you? Are you going to trust me or the robot for your friends' safety? The ultimate ultimatum. Sonic's mental realm was only shaking more violently by the second. Sonic, deciding to push away his confidence for his friends' sake, gives a hesitant sign of acceptance. Immediately, the reflection begins to laugh, flying forward towards the hedgehog's body, because this was going to be fun. Because he was going to finally do things his way. It was time for the emergence of Fleetway. Boom. Returning back to Station Square, Mecha Sonic could feel the energy coursing through him stop instantly. Tails, Amy, Robotnik, Tails though, all of them turned their attention to a yellow pillar of light that strangely seemed to pulsate with red energy. The ground begins to shake disturbingly, with laughter that's heard throughout the whole city. Never having seen a super form before, Amy and Tails look hopeful. A Robotnik, he has the opposite reaction. As with demonic speeds, a yellow flashes instantly upon said doctor. A fist won back with such chaotic force, if it wasn't for Heavy Rider coming in to sacrifice himself, it may have been the way in for the world's greatest scientific genius. Landing down disappointed at his miss, Super Sonic? No. Fleetway stands before all with electric sparks surrounding his whole body, with a manic smile accompanying it. Robotnik was now more nervous than ever. I mean, it's not every day you see the thing that destroys your death egg casually reappear again. And he was starting to run out of robots to protect him, especially with Metal and Silver Sonic being off and disappearing. Fleetway stares down the doctor deviously, even giving Amy and especially Tails a look. He liked the fear he was seeing in all these people, and soon enough though, he'll get rid of them all, because then his partner won't have anyone else to worry about or turn to but him. Dark Mecha Sonic for the first time in this battle shows a little bit of concern, but also insight, as he responds, so that's it. That's what made Sonic's power the way it was, while clutching the Phantom Ruby, as Fleetway retorts back, oh yeah, this is happening. A real crash out fight beginning with violent calculations, Fleetway growing his claws to take a devious strike against Mecha Sonic, his systems taking more damage in this one attack than any other fight he's ever had. Almost trying to enjoy his freedom, Fleetway would begin to put his hands behind his back and laugh crazy-like as he shows his proficiency in turning thoughts into power. The yellow hedgehog seemingly bouncing all over the terrain cartoonishly. Mecha Sonic, recovered now, turns to turn his damage into power as he attempts to replicate Sonic's dark boost power, slamming both fists into Fleetway's face. For a second, the demon stops smiling. Barely moving from the attack, he just disappointingly says, "Please." Uppercutting Mecha Sonic to next month before instantly being upon him to slam him right back down to a building, then dashing forwardly mockingly, trying to show him this is how you really boost, as he lightspeed tackles Mecha Sonic throughout the whole block, indirectly hitting Amy, who was in the crossfire, but he didn't really care regardless, because systems were beginning to fail him. Getting flashbacks of Angel Island, he clutches the Phantom Ruby for power one last time, creating portals for him to escape his predicament, just in time too, for a flood of negatively powered laser beams to be coming his direction, devastating the city's damages even more, Fleetway laughing in midair at his handiwork himself. All of his newfound confidence gone seeing his hero like this. Amy was unconscious as Sonic didn't even care at all. Was this what happened at the Death Egg? And looking at Robotnik's face only confirmed it. What was he supposed to do? No plan could go against the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Self-doubt being evident on his face while the doctor gains anger. Refusing to go out like this, he runs back to the Death Leg in an attempt to get it back under control, as Tail Doll shows signs of disobedience by not following his creator, honestly curious at the outcome. With no other choice, the two-tailed fox yells out to Sonic that he wasn't like this, having guilt that he couldn't have helped Sonic sooner with this condition. All of this just angers and distracts Fleetway. In this moment, strangely, finally, Metal and Silver Sonic in their messed up states attack Fleetway. Their priority of taking down Mecha Sonic earlier was now switched to taking down the original. Metal, with hatred of wanting one day to have plotted his own plan on a grand scale, while Silver attaches on, refusing to be used for scraps one day. Seeing the opportunity, strangely both creator and creation think at the same time. Mecha using the last of his power to condense a blast with the Phantom Ruby, while Robotnik fires a huge beam from the Death Egg, both beams colliding in DBZ faction as a beam struggle happens with the 4v1. The Phantom Ruby with his power actually causing the demon to struggle just for a little bit. Annoyed that something could stand to the Chaos Emeralds, Fleetway powers up to its fullest, going all out to punch the Phantom Ruby with so much negative energy so he can get rid of it, but something else happens instead. The red sparks of Fleetway's fist touches the Phantom Ruby, suddenly causing a chaotic reaction as the ruby itself darkens. These two powers weren't meant to interact this way. Mecha, Metal, and Silver Sonic have no idea what's going on as a chaotic reaction creating a dimensional force almost binds the three robots forcefully, as Fleetway and the Death Egg are blown back into the explosion. An earthquake happens, just like when a Fleetway appears, as a robotic whirling is heard throughout the whole city. A new robot, still in dark blue, emerges. The machine looked taller, more refined, but most noticeable, the dark and Phantom Ruby seemed to be fused within its very being. Tails and Robotnik were both scientifically shocked on what just happened. What happened to the three other robots? It's like the new fused machine was pondering its own existence, no longer looking at Fleetway but to the sky. With its new abilities, I was able to see differing realities, futures, possibilities. His ambition was now threefold. Angered at being ignored, Fleetway growls as he just made his fun all the more better, flying forward the new amalgamation himself, Metalix. Knew his power still didn't match Sonic's until a later date, but with a lazy wave of his hand, a pink porter teleports the demon to a different dimension, the Special Zone. Eventually, the Speed Demon uses his speed to break the barriers to return back to the present, immediately calling Metalix to end this fight so he can go right back to having fun. Strangely though, Metalix looked confident, casually mentioning that one of the best abilities of the fabled Phantom Ruby, what made him attracted to its use in the first place, was its way of making perfect illusions. As with a blink, Metalix was no longer there. He was standing back in the middle of the city. When Fleetway looked down to see who had been grabbing this whole time, a badly bruised and beaten Tails meets his spiral eyes. the mood immediately being switched as Sonic is actually able to force himself to gain back control, returning back to base as he couldn't believe what just happened. Looking back, he even sees Amy in a similar condition. The city overall looked like it was hit by a meteorite, and it was all his fault because of his power, letting that thing out, even letting what Metalix became what he is. Metalix though was unfazed, originally annoyed at his plans being detracted, but it seems it's just what he needed. The amalgamated CPUs of the once Metal Sonic pushing his voice to say, there can only be one Sonic. Charging up a blast to get rid of his organic copy for good, when all of a sudden from the sky, wham! A combined punch of SPO Knuckles disturbs Metalix. Team Chaotix with Knuckles and the Heavy and Bomb duo make their appearance. The Echidna and Ninja were ready to throw down to save their friends from Metalix, but almost like a premonition came up. The robot just stops and chuckles. His makeup was still that of two barely functioning robots that he did need to recover from. Knowing that the Echidna's pit still had the possibility of going super as well, he still needed to blast over to that planet Aquarius, as the Ruby foretold him through various futures, so that his domination of the universe would go about easier. Chuckling with crossed arms, instead of fighting, Metalix begins to flow in the air. He needed a team eventually to help him out with his plans, with almost some strange of technokinesis and persuasion. Tails Doll 2 would begin to flow in the air. The remains of Heavy Ninja and Heavy King 2 all gravitated towards Metalix, as they all gained purpose in their eyes, the Phantorumis almost possessing them with the same vision of domination and freedom like Metalix got. None giving a bat of the eyes, even their creator yells at them to come back here, but with one last look, saying that one day the demon will react differently when he fights against a deity. The Ford machine strangely blasting off into space with pink energy, no longer being noticeable. Knuckles now seeing that the bad feeling he has was right, he looks at the destruction around him. The Chaotix too, low-key being glad the robot guy took off. They doubted they were gonna do much to him anyway. Soon enough, we're met with the scene of Tails and Amy recovering in Station Square Hospital. No Sonic in sight, as a note was left by the Chaotix of their contact information, and the fact that they were helping out civilians from the battle a few days ago. Amy, upon waking up, demanding Tails to tell him what was going on and everything he knew, questioning why Sonic wasn't around. They now had two evil forces they had to worry about, one in their greatest hero and another in their greatest adversary. The Fox and Hedgehog with Heavy and Bomb in tow deciding to stay with the duo, vowing to find Sonic back and get stronger together all around the way. All while a certain doctor deals with all the damages that he's been having to deal with, wanting nothing to do with machinery at the moment, as he does begin to remember the legend behind Knuckles' people. Later on that night, in the newly built Chaotix Detective Agency, a whoosh is heard at nighttime. SPO being the only one to notice this, he goes outside to meet Sonic with no cocky attitude, with a face expression more serious than ever, asking SPO if his offer of his way of training was still there. As this is where I'll be leaving the story off for right now. And that's the Classic Saga of the series completed. But wait, there's more. Parts 5 and 6 are already up for the ongoing adventures arc that we're in, so you can go ahead and check those out below. Make sure you guys comment any thoughts and predictions, or if you don't have anything else to say, comment algorithm field to get this big video out there, and share with any amigos that I guess would be into this what if stuff. Because like I said, depending on how this goes is depending on whether I bother making a part 7 or not, due to the whack views I low-key been getting. If you like this idea and like to see more, I also have a What If Sonic and Scourge for Twin series. I have 2 parts that are public, but it is mainly a members only series, or even my Goofy's What If Sonic Was Betrayed and Trapped April Fools that I did. Also got a bit of Dragon Ball in here also too, if you want to watch that. If you really do like my storytelling though, you can actually commission me to make your own What If on Patreon, so make sure you check those out below. But that's all from me. I need to recover from grinding in the summer, so I'll be on a little bit of a hiatus though. Make sure you guys comment on part 5 and 6 and let me know that this video sent you there. I'll be replying to the comments that I can. Have a blessed rest of your day and appreciate the watch.